Oh, recording in progress. So you're being recorded forever, Christine.
Great.
And look at my camera's gone out of focus. I probably look better out of focus than I do in focus anyway, so we won't worry about that. All right. So welcome everybody. Come on in. If you're joining us on 3XM and 3XM Insiders even, you're very welcome to watch us there. If you've got any questions for Christine or I along the way, just make sure you ask them in the chat, but please make sure that it says everyone, because it defaults in Zoom for whatever reason to panelists and whatever else we are, but just go to everyone. Okay, so guys, tell us in the chat where you're joining us from today. Just tell us where you're joining us from, your name and where you're joining us from. Say hello to Christine. They're all gone very shy, Christine. There we go. Karen's joining us from Tennessee, USA.
Hello,
Great to see you here, Karen. And Jim is from South Wales. Welcome, Jim. And we've got Barbara all the way from Belgium. Look at this. And Louisiana. Joel, oh, a fellow BSA'er. And Claire, another fellow BSA'er. Yay, love it. And Lisa from Ohio. And Nikki from Plymouth. And April. Hi, April. Good to see you again. And Hannah, good to see you too. All the way from Devon. All righty. Right, Christine, you better tell everybody where you're from.
I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. And before you ask, it is summer here. It is 90 degrees and humid. So probably a little different than where most of you are from.
Well, I'm sure it's warm somewhere. Oh, Joel can.
Louisiana, it's probably
yeah.
just like it in Louisiana, yeah.
So what is where you are in South Carolina? Is it as humid as, because I've been in Louisiana, I've been in New Orleans, so I know what it's like down there during the summer. Are you similar that way?
Yes, we call it swampy as well. So
okay, all right, okay. I remember when I was speaking in Louisiana a few years ago, and it was in July when the conference was on, and Joel was there as well. And we walked outside, we turned around and walked back inside.
Like walking into a wet blanket.
Yes, indeed. Well, Christine, tell us. So, you're here to tell us, right, how you run such an amazing business from your home, right? Because a lot of photographers run business from home, and yet sometimes they think that, well, it's not really possible to do it without a studio, but you've proven that that's not the case. And you're running a very successful business. But I want to go back to your journey first, right? Where you first got your love for photography. And am I right in saying that Santa Claus has something to do with this?
Yes, Santa.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about that.
I think I was 8 and I got my first camera for Christmas, probably like a lot of photographers, and it was film. It was a Fisher-Price camera. Some of you might remember it was this little blue 110 film camera where you had to put the extra, you bought the flashes separately and you stuck them on top and they popped and then you threw them away. And that was back in the days where you took a picture and you hoped you got something when you took it to the store to develop it weeks later, when you just took like one at a time instead of 300. So ever since then, I've loved photography. I did a lot of scrapbooking through high school and in college, and just eventually got my first DSLR probably when my first child was born, but just kind of kept up with technology all along the way. So I no longer shoot film. I'm all about instant gratification, but have always loved photography since I was 8.
So when did you start your business then? Like, did you always have the intention of setting up a photography business?
No.
Or okay.
No, I'm the cliche mom who had kids and took pictures of the kids, and then so you have social media, right? And you start posting pictures and everyone's like, oh, your pictures are so great. Will you take my pictures? And so I started doing that. And, if anyone had told me what it was like to run a business back then when I started my business, I probably wouldn't have done it. It was very organic and chaotic, and I knew nothing about starting a business. other than people asked me to take their picture and I started charging them money. So that was the beginning. And all along the way, I've learned how much I had no idea how to run a business. I was not an entrepreneur at all. I do have a degree in accounting, but not marketing and not business in general. And I had no idea what I didn't know, but I knew I loved taking pictures.
But you knew your numbers, right? Having a degree in accounting. So
I did. I knew enough to to keep track of my revenues and my expenses. And for many, many years, my expenses were higher than my revenues, but things did change, thankfully.
So talk to us about that change then, right? Because you obviously had these, you understood the numbers, you had a love for photography. You were obviously from a very early stage and putting a price on your photography, right? And understood the principles of pricing in that way.
Yes.
So how did you, was it when the accounting was after the event, or did your accounting degree help you in the planning process of saying, well, I'm going to do these number of sessions at this price and these are going to be my expenses, so that's how I make a profit?
Well, I think I was really in denial about how much time I was spending on my business that I wasn't getting paid to do. And it wasn't until I went to a workshop. Amanda Holloway was my very first mentor. And she, if you know anything about her, she is just she doesn't hold back. And one of the first lessons she taught us was that, you've got to value your time. You have to know where your time is going, and your time is valuable. And no one had ever told me that before. I was just thinking in terms of basic expenses, like, frames and prints and maybe I kept track of my gas from time to time. But it wasn't until someone told me that my time was valuable. You're not just doing it because you love it. I do love it. But honestly, not all day, every day. I don't love this all day, every day. It's work, but it started off, you have to make it a business. And until I started valuing my own time, I was definitely not a profitable photographer. And so once I started really digging deep and looking at, well, how much time am I spending on a session, and how much time does it take me to get there? And do I have to pay a babysitter for my kids? And all of that stuff, I was really underestimating the true expenses that I had. So yes, I knew how to measure the numbers, but I didn't value myself. I didn't value my own time. And that was a light bulb moment for sure.
So tell me why you didn't value yourself. Was it that you didn't know how to put a value on your time, or was it that you were focused on the photography as being a photograph?
Coming to it from a place of loving it, I wanted everybody else to have the same thing. I wanted to give, and I wanted people to have something. But like a lot of new photographers and some very experienced photographers, I absolutely had imposter syndrome. And I was like, well, I'm not that great. And what I'm giving people isn't anything special and wonderful. And so, I still have those moments. 10 years into business, I'm like, well, is what I'm doing, do people want this? Do people love it? Do people care? But I really didn't think that I was doing anything special. So I didn't put a value on it.
So you had all these other people on social media and friends that you've met on social media, seeing your photographs, asking you to photograph, and yet you still didn't feel that what you did was of great value to them.
Your mom always loves your stuff, right? Your mom and your friends are always like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. And so many times you see on social media these terrible pictures that somebody took and other people are like, oh, that's so amazing. And I'm like, it's not amazing. But so I really didn't start valuing myself until I took a look at what I was being taken away from. comparing that to what I could be doing with my kids or with my family, and you know, gathering testimonials from strangers, like just clients that I had never met before who don't really care about my, stroking my ego. That definitely helped. And that's something that I have really started to incorporate into my business, is asking for feedback from everybody that I photograph, because not just for my ego and not just to put it on my website and say, look at me, I'm wonderful, this person thinks I'm wonderful, but really to get feedback and find out, what did I do well? What do I need to work on? Because, yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm still figuring things out.
So, and in business, that's always the case. There's always something new to figure out. We never know everything. No one knows everything on business or anything, in fact, in life. So I love that open mind and willingness to learn, because a lot of people, they just close off their minds and they're not willing to even consider another opinion or another approach or another suggestion. So being tuned into your clients, right? Being tuned into your clients and what they're telling you, the difference your work is making for them. Mm-hmm. And listening to them actively, like you've described, rather than, I just need to get a testimonial done, and you're not listening to what they're saying. That's amazing. So running your business from your home, which you're here to talk to us about, I think what you're saying is, you really need to understand your client, who your client is, what they say about what you do for them, and that helps inform everything that your approach is within your business. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes, absolutely. And it's kind of why I've decided to niche down as far as I have. I'm a senior high school photographer primarily. I do other things if I'm asked, but I don't market that at all. And all of my social media and all of my my website is geared all toward high school senior photography. And surprise, I have 2 kids in high school. So I love that. I love working with those people, because that's where I am, and it's where I am in my family and in my journey. And it kind of organically works for, I get to hang out with my kids at sports, but I also get to talk about my business to the other parents that are there. And so it makes things, congruent in my life. So I am where my ideal client is, and I kind of am my ideal client, which is, I feel like, cheating sometimes. But because my why is, my kids are going to be gone in 3 years. I want to spend as much time with them as I can. And if I can grow my business and be with my kids at the same time, it's a win-win.
Oh, wow. So much in that, Christine. Can I divide that down a little bit?
Yes.
Can I take that
apart?
Yeah,
I know. I got a little ahead of myself, but
because there was so many nuggets in there. Yeah. Okay. So the first thing, and I see this a lot in photography. I see a lot of photographers thinking, look, I need business, so I need to have every client, and I need to do multi-genres, and because I just need that. But what you've just described is, not only did you discover that that's not the way to do this, and we'll talk a little bit about how you came to that conclusion, if we can. And then there was a whole of nuggets about who is your ideal client, where do they hang out, putting yourself where they are. There was all that in there, but let's just rewind back to the first nugget, which was, so talk to us about your journey in discovering who your ideal client is and who you wanted to photograph and why you wanted to photograph them.
So in my journey to figuring out what I want to do and where I want to spend my time, I've photographed everything. I've done families, I've done weddings, I've done commercial and food, like anything you could imagine, I've tried it. And I always came back to, it was my friends and their families. They wanted me to take their Christmas card pictures or whatever. So that's kind of where I got started. And having a family of my own, it was important to me to document families and really to give the gift of memories, because that's what I love. That's what I want. And so I kind of, from the very beginning, kind of dialed into that commonality between myself and my clients. And it got to the point where I was like, gosh, families are just so complicated. Dad's over here, he's kind of grouchy, and scheduling was always a problem. And I really decided that, one-on-one clients are really my jam. And I love working with one person at a time. If you know me at all, I'm like super type A perfectionist. And so I like to take one person and pose them and like make one person look great. I was struggling with big groups. And so learning a little bit more about myself and how I like to work and how I work best kind of helped me down this path of, okay, I want to work with one subject at a time. So then my kids were growing up and they became high schoolers. And so that's the perfect niche for me. So that's kind of how, and now that I actually have a high school senior this year, it's like even more so do I connect with this desire to do this for parents, because that's where I am, and it's so meaningful for me. And it doesn't feel like work when you're doing something that's so meaningful. I do want it to be profitable for sure.
Yes.
But I am buy-in, like I bought into the whole, like I'm all in.
And we get back to the profit and the money in a few minutes, but let's just deep dive into this client piece, because I think it's really, really important. So one of the key things in when you start to niche down your business is it allows you to over deliver for a client, and they become a referral marketing engine for you. But even within high school seniors, have you niched that down even further, that it's a particular type of high school senior, or is it high school seniors?
I've found that I'm really not even marketing to the seniors, it's the moms. So it's moms like me whose kids will be going away to college, not staying home and getting a job, or not staying at the community college. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the ones who are afraid of letting their kids go far away, and it's like, we have one last this and one last that. And it's just like, I do talk to seniors, but it's really the moms that I've really connected with the most. So it's taken me a long time to determine, like, who am I talking to? Who do I need to target all of my marketing to? Because it was kind of all over the place for a while. It was like seniors here and moms here and, you. And so once I finally narrowed down to, I am talking to moms whose kids are going to be gone in a year, and you're going to want something of physical in your hands to look at when they're away. So that, I don't know how niche is. That a niche?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So because what you said was that it's moms who've got children who are going to university or college, right? Whatever name you put on that. So they're probably going to fly the nest now. I don't want to make you cry about your daughter, but they're going to fly the nest now. They're going to go off to university, right? There's a good chance that they may meet their future partner at university or shortly after it. So it's sort of it is a really important moment in the life of mum, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's almost more about them than it is about the senior. I know different senior photographers do things differently.
Yes.
And some of them gear everything towards the seniors. In my experience, these kids are so busy and so scattered and so like, and this is not a priority for them. Senior photography, I feel, is extremely regional in trends. So what works for some of my colleagues in other places is like not going to work here. And I think that's kind of the same for a lot of things, but yes, for me, it's just, yeah, the mom.
And Christine, there may be photographers in your area who have a different ideal client where it is all about the senior and they're connecting with them. And that doesn't matter because that's not your client, right? But there's enough mums out there who are like you, who you can connect with to bring enough business every single year, right? For your high school senior business.
Yes, absolutely. There's plenty.
Okay, so there's a burning question in my head, right? So you're talking to mom, all right? And you're connecting and she gets this, right? Is there ever pushback from the high school senior? Oh no, I don't want to do this.
Sometimes they're a little reticent, and a lot of, I would say most of that comes from boys. They're like, I'm doing this for my mom. I'm doing this for her. I'm not doing it for me. Sometimes girls are all about it. They're like 18 outfits in this location and they have this whole Pinterest board full of stuff, and that's great. But I think it's a win for me if the guys come for their moms and they have a really great time. You know, I want mom to be happy, but I want the senior to also have a really good time. And, you know, these boys are not going to tell their friends, hey, I got these great senior pictures from so-and-so down here. You should go talk to her. They're not. It's not about referrals. It's not about that. It's just about having giving an amazing experience to a kid who really didn't want to be there in the first place.
All right. So what you're saying to me then is your ideal client is a mom where the children are going away to high school, but the children can be male or female. And that somehow in your conversation with mom persuades even the boys to do this for her. So tell us, how do you plant that seed in mom's head to have that conversation with her high school senior? Or do you facilitate that conversation, or do you just plant the seed and let mom do it?
I plant the seed and let mom do it. And I think, you know, mom guilt is a real thing. And so we can kind of coerce our children to do things sometimes that they wouldn't ordinarily do, you know. But, you know, when I touch base with a lead, I'm always talking to the mom, and we talk about the whole process of senior year and how fast it's going to go and how we're sad about that they're going to be gone. And what I like to do is incorporate mom into the session a little bit. And I say it's a really great opportunity for you to get in there with, it's about the senior, right? But it's a great opportunity to get you in a photograph with your child, not with your other children, not with your whole family, but there's, you know, mothers have a bond that's different with each one of their children. And I think it's very special. So I kind of make them a part of the process. Yes, they're paying. Yes, they're booking. Yes, it's about the senior. But ultimately, and you know what, it's funny because I take a picture of the moms with their seniors. They're always like, oh, I don't love it. But then I gift it to them afterwards, even if they don't buy it as part of a package or whatever. And they're always so grateful to have it. And I strategically will send it after the kid goes to school so that, you know, like in September, like, here you go, mom, look at this picture. You didn't like it at the time, but I bet you like it now.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. Love it. So talk to me then about your whole process. So you've got the lead, the leads are coming from your ideal client. You know, you said that you place yourself where your ideal client is, right? So you mentioned that, like, if there's a sports event, you know, you're there for your children and that gives you an opportunity. But when your children aren't there, you know, will you still go to those sports events to connect with the moms, or how will that work?
I don't usually have time to attend the things that my kids aren't in. when we're talking about having your own business, I have to be very strategic about where I spend my time. You put the big things in first, the big rocks, and then the pebbles, and then the sand, and then the water. Well, my family is the big rocks. And so, that goes on my calendar first. And then, the other things. So if I'm not with them, then I'm working on something equally as important. And as a solopreneur, it's just the one-on-one networking time has kind of not happened as much. So I'm not really going to events without my kids, but I am connecting with coaches at the school. So I do know coaches and teachers, and I'm offering my services like, hey, do you need senior banners for track? I would love to help you. And then I get leads from the parents who sign up to have their senior banner taken and things like that. So connecting with the coaches has probably been the equivalent of that, not being there at an event, but helping out, getting my name in the school so that they know who I am. It's probably
because all of your high school senior sessions, they're all boutique sessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not, do you have a contract with a local school where you're doing the volume and that leads into it? Or are you having to generate the leads for the boutique sessions from scratch?
Kind of generating the leads. I am trying to maybe meet the kids, do a quick, it's almost more like generating leads from these free sessions or school supported sessions. The schools are always asking for money. Schools are always asking for support. Well, okay, I will donate my time to this sport so that you can have all of this stuff. I get the leads, and I'm not giving the school money, but I'm giving my time. And so I believe in the school, I believe in the sports and all of those things. So it is, again, congruous with where I am and what I want to be doing.
Okay, so how do you, as you said yourself, you're working on your own in your business, right? And there's so much to running the business. So yes. How do you manage the collection of those leads? Like what's the process for collecting them, knowing where they've come from, and the process then of follow up and all that? How does all that work for you?
Is this where you want me to talk about funnels?
No, well, you can do. I'm just curious as to how do you manage that process?
So one of the huge game changers in my business was when I started implementing a CRM system, and I personally use 17 Hats. I know there's a lot of different ones out there. That's the first I got a recommendation from a friend, and it does what I needed to do. So before that, I was managing everything on an Excel spreadsheet because I was an accountant and that's what I knew how to use. And it just became, when I was a little business and I had a little business, it was fine. But now to try to grow my business, I've had to automate a lot of stuff. And that is email sequences and workflows and all of the stuff that, this is not an ad for 17 Hats, but that has enabled me to do that. You have to be organized. You have to be organized and you have to be strategic. So setting up all of this stuff on the front end was extremely onerous. And it was quite honestly a huge hurdle to why it took me so long to do it in the first place. I was afraid to start, but I am so glad I did. So setting up a workflow for each client, like every step of the process. A lot of them are automated. Drafting emails that go out to them at certain points in the process, all automated. Whereas I was constantly copying and pasting or, sending out emails to individual people, like just automating so much of that has saved so much time. Now that I value my time, I don't want to write the same email 6,000 times. So I have processes in place to take care of a lot of those things, not everything. Obviously, there's a personal touch. Talking to people on the phone is not an automated process and it's time consuming, but it does pay off. It does. And I don't like talking on the phone either. I know most of you probably don't. We have this conversation all the time. But it's a necessary evil for those of you who don't like talking on the phone. But automating a lot of the rest of the process was huge, huge, huge. It is an investment of time upfront, though.
Yes, so you use 17 hats as your CRM, and you set up all your email sequences, and you set up rules that when a lead comes in, they get this, and if they do this, they do that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so how do you get the leads into the system then? Like, do they come from your website or?
So I have several different ways where leads can come in, and I have one funnel that I use exclusively. It's a like landing page type funnel that I have, and it's my whole senior spiel. So this is the senior experience. This is me. This is how much it costs. Sign up. There's a button to sign up. And they can see my booking calendar. So that's kind of where I had a roadblock. I would talk to people on the phone, and then we get to the point of scheduling, and they're like, oh, well, our schedules don't match up. So I was wasting a lot of time talking to people when I didn't need to be. So my kind of gatekeeper is in my landing page with a scheduler, and people can select a spot on my schedule that works for them, and then we talk. So I'm eliminating some of those conversations that were wasting my time beforehand. I'm getting on the phone to talk to these people, but only people who have kind of made a little tiny investment in the process. Okay. So that's my landing page that I have connected to. Almost anytime I get an inquiry, I send that out to them.
Okay, so if you get an inquiry from somebody who knows you on Facebook and it comes into Messenger, do you respond to them on Messenger and then send them a link to this landing page where they can go ahead, see what's all involved?
Yes.
So you're not having to have a personal conversation with every lead that comes in.
Personal conversations on instant messenger are the bane of my existence. I do not want to entertain them at all. I want everything to live in 17 hats. Everything. That's where I want everything to be, because it keeps track. I don't want to text you. Don't text me, don't message me. And I know that, people want to be responded to in the manner in which they reached out to you, but they always get the link. They always get this landing page link. And so once they inquire and they hit the button to schedule a session, then all of their information goes into my CRM, and they instantly get put in a workflow with all the steps that then happen. So it's consistent among every single client.
And then you're able to look after, as you said, the rocks, your family time first. So you're able to set up your schedule around what's the family go into the calendar first, and then the times that are available. And then your clients then are visiting the landing page, they're seeing everything that's involved, and then they can sign up to book their time slot that suits them. But the times they see are only the times that you're available and suit you.
Yep.
So when they do that, what happens next?
So I respond with an email that says, I'd love to chat with you to find out more about your senior and how I can help you. Let's schedule a time to talk. So that is the first email that they get from me. And then I get them on the phone at a time that suits them.
And Christine, do they book a time to connect on the phone, or do they just suggest a time, or how does that work? Have you a calendar for that as well?
At that point, no, I don't, because I would have to keep track of that on a daily basis. So when I respond with that email, I kind of say, these are the times I'm free in the next couple of days. I don't go too far out because I want to keep them kind of engaged. So within the next 2 to 3 days, these are the times I'm free. Let me know a time that works for you, and I will give you a call. If none of these work for you, let me know, and we'll work something out. Okay. And I've always been able to get them on the phone.
And I was just about to say, because a lot of photographers, when they generate leads, right, it's hard. They say that often nobody answers, right? They're screening the calls or whatever. How do you get beyond that?
Well, I think that, at that point, they're already invested in having a session. They've booked a time, and I make it clear, like, you've booked this time, you've penciled it in, but it's not booked until you pay. And so we have the discovery call, and then I talk to them about the whole entire process. I think the pricing, the starting pricing, I don't give my whole pricing guide or whatever, but starting pricing is at the very bottom of my landing page. And a lot of times people don't make it all the way to the bottom of the landing page. So that is pricing was a conversation I was always very afraid to have at the beginning, because again, I didn't value my time and blah, blah, blah. But now it's one of those things that you have to have a conversation about pricing up front. I don't like being surprised when I go to purchase something and, there's no pricing on anything. And then at the end, you're like, that's $5 million. That's not what I was expecting. So I do like to talk to people and say, okay, your initial investment is this. And then, whatever you want to purchase afterwards is totally up to you, but the range is X to Y. Does that sound like it makes sense for your family's budget? And sometimes they say, wow, no, that's not what I was expecting. But most of the time they're like, yeah, that sounds good. So I still hate having the money conversation with people, but it's better to have people tell you no up front than to surprise them at the end and then be mad or surprised, even though you send them the pricing in multiple. Unless you have that conversation, you cannot be assured that they're going to read the 18 emails that you send them between now and the session that details all your pricing. They're not going to read it, no matter how beautiful you composed this email and how many times you send it. They're not going to read it. So you have to have the conversation so they're not surprised.
And Christine, do you have an investment guide or price list or whatever, price guide or whatever you might call it?
I do.
So when in your sales process do they get that? Is it after this photographic experience? Is it before that?
It's before. So we have the conversation on the phone. My session fee is X, and then you can expect to spend whatever on this. After that, I send them a contract and an invoice for their session fee. In that contract and in every other email after that, they get a copy of my current pricing guide that has, the most popular items that people purchase. I do custom stuff and I do things that aren't on the guide. My guide is very small because to confuse people or to give them all the price of absolutely everything that I sell is overwhelming. But they get a taste of what I want them to buy. I put, kind of my bigger collections in there. And so they have access to that before the session, because I want them to start thinking about what they want. And if they can tell me what they want before I start shooting, even better, because then I know what I'm shooting for. Am I shooting for something on the wall, or am I shooting for like an album with 30 pages? There's a big difference.
Okay, so a whole load of nuggets in there. So let's just dive in that a little bit.
Okay.
So the first thing you said was your price list is small. I think what you're saying to us is that there's not a lot of items on it. So there's no decision fatigue. It's not like a menu it's a Michelin star restaurant menu.
Mm-hmm.
You see a Michelin star restaurant menu, there's not much on it, right?
Right.
And there's a reason for that. You go into another restaurant, and I've been there so many times, and there's 600 items on the menu, and I'm confused before I even start. I nearly don't want to order because I'm afraid that if I order that I really wanted that, and then I've read it, and oh no, I prefer this one over here. No, I prefer this one over here. So that's a great lesson. Less is more in this instance.
Yes.
But the other key thing you said was you're showing in that what you want to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And so what excites you in products, because you have to love what you sell, right?
Yes. So you can talk about it and not be fake. Like like we were saying, I don't love big collections of wall art. I don't have I like artwork on my walls. I have some photographs of my children, but I don't decorate my walls with big collections of wall art. That's not what everybody does, but I love boxes and I love albums. That's what I love. So that's kind of how I've created my collections. And that's what I show people. And Lisa just asked if Linda, excuse me, asked if I offered digitals. And yes, that is a question that I get. And I do offer digitals, but I don't sell digitals. Digitals are given with a collection of printed pieces, like a box or an album, and only at a certain level. So you can't just like cherry pick digitals.
Okay, so let's just deep dive into that a little bit, because
Okay.
that's a really important thing too.
Yeah.
So so the digitals, you don't have digital only packages.
No.
The digitals are gifted. You're really using them as an incentive to purchase more, right? So
Yeah.
I think what you've explained is that if they buy 3 matted prints, they're not getting the digitals, right?
Right.
So if they buy an album with 20 pages or whatever the number is, it doesn't matter what the number is, what they buy in the album, the digitals are included. Or if they buy a folio box with photographs in it, for every photograph that's in that folio box, once they go beyond a certain number, the social media files are gifted. Is it social media files they get, or high resolution, or both?
They get high res. I'm not going to mess with all that. I used to do that, and they're not going to spend more people don't care. They don't notice the difference. People will take your social media files and print big, ugly things. So I do try to educate my clients and say, if you want wall art, if you want something big, let me do it, because I do a different retouch for a 20 by 30 portrait than I do for an album. I'm not going to go in and get rid of your nose hairs in a tiny little picture that's going in an album. I'm just not going to spend the time to do that. But yeah, I just give them, they're high res-ish. I mean, they're usually about 5 megs, which is big enough. I've never had anybody say that they need bigger.
So Christine, you're working from home, right?
Yes.
Is your stuff on location, or do you have a home studio, or just tell us how you're situated? How does that work?
Well, in Charleston is a very picturesque place, and the weather's pretty good all year long. So most people want their senior sessions done outside. So 99% of the time, that's what we're doing. I'm starting to get into more sports composites, and I also do headshots. So those I will do in my home studio, which is really my living room, and everybody has to move all the furniture and set up. It's a real pain in the butt. So I don't do it very often. It's just easier to go out on location, but I do have some people coming in my home, which isn't ideal. And I don't do it usually for total strangers. Usually we have to have a personal connection. It's my house. It's not like a space attached to my house. It's not like a room above my garage. It's like in my house. So
It's your home.
I don't really want utter complete strangers walking in my home.
So when you do your consultation on the phone with your client, okay, and then they book the experience, and we're going to be primarily on location, how do you pick the location? Do you have set locations, or do they determine maybe where the location will be, or how does that process work?
So in my pre-session consultation with my clients, so after the discovery call, after they've booked me, we do a pre-session consultation. And so I send the senior like a mock form, or you can do Google Forms survey, a senior style survey. And it talks about like, what's their style? What do they want to wear? What is important to them? Who are they? Because I try to customize the sessions to be very specific to them and what they love to do. So I ask them, where do you want your session? 9 times out of 10, they always pick historic Charleston because that's what's on my website and that's what people see and that's what people want. So yes, it's become a little bit of a formula. I go here and we sit and I go here and we stand and I go here and we kneel, which it's not creative anymore, but it's what the people want and it's very efficient. So that's fine. If they want something, I've photographed in people's homes, I've photographed, in parks. So I really want them to tell me what they want. I do say it's at this time of day, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like this is when your session is. And if you pick a location that is not going to work, then I'll let them know. Like you can't shoot at the beach 2 hours before sunset. It's not going to happen. Based on my style. Some people do, but I won't. So I want them to guide. I want them to guide me. And if they want ideas and if they're like, I don't really care, I don't really know, then I'll kind of default.
All right. So you've even automated that part of the process where it's a survey and they fill it.
Yeah.
You're definitely the automation queen of photography that I've come up. Absolutely. You're amazing. I love, because like in any business, like time is the thing that it's the commodity we can't get back, right? And it's the commodity that we need to have a strategy around. And you've really thought through this idea of my time, the value of my time. I've limited time. I need to be able to use automation to make you as efficient as possible in your business as a solopreneur. Yes,
it has been the game changer for me. Learning those systems and utilizing them, maximizing them. Now I'm working on kind of an email drip campaign for new leads. It's like a 5 email series. This is something that's coming. I haven't quite gotten there yet, but.
Okay, we need to explain to people what that is, maybe.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of marketing lingo used in there. And I'm not saying our audience don't know what it is, but just in case they don't. So talk to us about email nurturing or drip campaigns, right? What's the function of them, first of all? And then let's get into how you're going about doing them. But what's the strategy? What do you want to achieve with your email drip nurturing campaigns?
So full disclosure, I didn't know what a drip campaign was 2 years ago. So for all of you who don't know, it's newish to me too. So I have cold leads, which are people who don't know me at all, who've never met me in person, who don't have a personal connection. And that's one bucket of people. And I market to them a little bit differently. And then I have my warm or hot leads of people who I have a personal connection with. We know each other, we're neighbors, our kids are friends. Like they have a little more know, like, and trust factor. I'm not just some crazy person they saw on the internet or social media. So those are 2 different buckets that get spoken to a little bit differently. So the cold traffic, which would be people from either social media who follow me, who don't know me, or Facebook ads or things of that nature. I need to introduce myself and have them get to know me a little bit more before they can trust me enough to pay me any money. Because as you have said many, many times, what is it? 15% of people will buy from you, but 80% won't, or I have the numbers wrong, but the gist is that people need to be exposed to you and your brand many, 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 many times before they're going to trust you with their money. So cold traffic is here. And so when they come in to my system from an ad or from social media, like a freebie, something that I'm giving away, I have a sequence of emails to send to them. I use MailChimp, but it is a series of emails to basically introduce myself to them, tell them what I do and how I can help them, and then ask them, at the end, have the ask. You want to book a senior session? So that is kind of what that process looks like.
Okay, and the nurturing piece, you said this is something you're working on, that you're mapping out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So just to deep dive into that a little bit more. So I absolutely love that you realize that your email list, right, is a pot of gold. But you also realize that there's pyrite in there. It looks like gold, but it's not gold. And if you take the analogy that the gold is your client, right? But you've gathered these leads from your marketing because you've built your funnels, you've got your different traffic sources, which is just people, guys. So people coming from different areas and they're visiting this landing page and they're registering, but they haven't yet gone ahead and purchased, or they've expressed an interest through a contact form on your website or whatever that might be. And you now have all those people who haven't booked from you yet, but you have a classification process to divide that into, oh, these are people I know, I have a relationship with, they're warmer leads, I can have a conversation with them now. And these other people need to get to know and like and trust me a bit more as a business. So you're designing out a series of emails to deliver value to them. So not every email is book me, book me, book me, right? You have a series of emails that are saying, oh, let me show you Jane. And Jane's daughter headed off to university last year. And here's Jane's story. And this is some of the photographs we captured. And you're telling a story or a case study, right? Yeah. And then your PS on your email might be, and if now is a good time for you to book your high school senior, click here. And they come to your high school senior landing page. Am I sort of half right?
You're 100% right.
Okay, good. So so that process then is again automated and is again designed to turn that pot of gold that also contains pyrite to find that gold, to pan for that gold, to bring them into your world, to bring them into the next step of your inquiry process, which is visiting that landing page where they fill that out and go ahead then and book a slot on the calendar, correct?
Yes.
Okay, love it. Love it.
Yep.
Because so many photographers just don't have these systems. And to go back on the numbers you mentioned, so guys, here's a fact regardless, not just for photography, everything. And Christine talked a little bit to it. So if you gather 100 leads, right, 100 leads from a marketing campaign, any marketing campaign, 50 of those leads will never buy from you no matter what you do. They're the people, if you gave them a red Ferrari for free, they'd want a black one, right? The other 50 leads will buy from you sometime, but sometime being the appropriate word, because sometime goes from day 1 to 2 years out. Can you believe that? 2 years out. And 15% of them, so 7.5 to 8 people, we'll round up to 8 because there isn't 7.5 people. So 8 people will buy now, right? They're ready to buy now. And the other 42 people will buy sometime between day 30 and 2 years. And this goes back to even the older days. I'm old enough to remember when I used to knock on doors selling, right? And you know, the salespeople who were most successful were those who went back to that client over and over and over again. Because Christine gathers leads today, right, of families through her marketing, and the high school senior might be a high school senior for 2 years. So they're not your client today, but they will be in 2 years' time. So if you bring them into your world and you stay in contact with them, you share nurturing emails, then when it's right for them, they'll take that step in the process.
And to take it even further, I have tags for different classes. So I have families who have kids that are class of 2023 and 2025. And so I make sure that, you know, I'm hitting them when it's relevant to them. And I have a year cycle of emails for that year's graduating seniors. And then, you know, for the other people, it's just kind of like, hey, how's it going? Here's some things. But when it's your year and it's the relevant time, they're getting a lot more targeted emails. And then when they've graduated, they won't get as many.
All right. So Christine, let's just have a look to see have we got any questions in here that we haven't dealt with. I'm following these procedures, but when they hear I do not sell digital files, they back out, even though I offer files or products. What should I do?
Well, if people just want the digitals, that's fine. They won't get this beautiful box and they're going to pay the same amount of money for it. The digitals are part of the package. So, I mean, a lot of people handle it a lot of different ways, and it's totally your prerogative. Digitals are important to people. I don't think you're going to get away with not selling digitals to people anymore. I just don't think that we're in the day and age, especially with seniors. You're not going to get away with it, and which is evident. Nobody buys my bottom package because they don't have digitals in them. They want the digitals, and they don't know they want the prints until they have them, and they love them. They love them. So,
So Christine, I have a question on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So mom, right? Does mom love the prints?
Yes.
Yes. But the high school senior wants the digitals.
Couldn't care less about the prints, no. And it's funny, it's very interesting that thus far, not many of my actual seniors have shared any of their senior pictures on their social media. They're just not sharing as much as they used to, and I find that very interesting, but to each their own.
So they're not, so the high school senior is not sharing on their social media. Okay. So they may be sharing the social media, but you don't see where they're sharing. And what I mean by that is, so here's the thing, right? We've all heard the marketing generations, right? And millennials are completely different than Gen X, who are probably the parents of the seniors today, with some older millennials. And then you've got the Gen Z or Z, depending which part of the world you are coming, which are high school seniors now. But there's a new Generation C coming. Generation C is the piece for it. And there's subtle differences between all them. So let me just explain a difference between millennials, because it's not that long ago when millennials were our high school senior clients, and Gen Z. So Gen Z are completely different to millennials in terms of, so for example, when they use Snapchat, they use it like my generation use text messaging, but they communicate only with their closest friends in Snapchat, and they're happy to share stuff with just their friends through that, and it's generally a photo they're sharing, right? If they're posting on Instagram, quite often that's about their aspirational selves. And I think I'm not sure there's a link here, but I want to bring it back to this, right? When you said that mum is your client, right? Mum's your main client as well as the high school senior. So the photographs that you capture, is there a difference between what you have to capture for mum and what you have to capture for the high school senior, do you think?
Sometimes clothing wise. And I do tell the parents that I want the senior to have buy-in. Mom's paying, mom's arranging, these are for mom. However, sometimes teenagers would wear things that their parents don't want to spend money to have them photographed in. But I say, this is a compromise. This is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be an awesome experience. Just let them wear the ripped jean shorts that you're never going to show grandma, and you don't have to buy many or any, just let them wear it. And then you can decide whether or not it's worth buying later. But in terms,
sorry, Christina, I thought you finished. Go ahead.
In terms of the actual finished photographs, I don't think there's a difference. No. Teenagers are a lot more critical of themselves than moms. Love everything. Moms want every single picture, and the teens are the ones who are like, no.
So Christine, do the high school seniors and mom come to the sales session?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Dad is rarely involved. Sometimes siblings definitely come. But I do say that all decision makers need to be there. I do one sales session and that's it. We're not doing this again and again and again. So you need to pick a time that works for mom and senior, or whoever else is going to be there.
Right. And I know you're a client of 3XM. So is it the high school senior or mom that likes the folio box, or both, or Is there a reason why they'll choose an album over a folio box or vice versa?
It's always the parent who is driving the product decisions. The kids don't care. And in fact, they're always like, it's for you, mom, pick whatever you want. Because mom's asking their opinion. They're like, I don't care. So I haven't really taken the tack of, you know, this is for you someday. You're going to want this, and I'm going to hold on to this for you. And then one day you're going to want this. I actually haven't used that strategy. In terms of, you know, the album versus the portfolio box, honestly, I think for me, it's split 50-50. I think I say the portfolio box is like an album alternative. It just kind of depends on how you want to live. How do you live? How does it make sense? Do you want to put it on your table? Do you want to put it on your shelf? And people are really polarized one way or another. It's kind of funny. But yeah, it's split about 50-50. And
Wow.
I don't know why. I like both.
Yeah, no, I'm curious. I'm really curious as to why, because when I look at the high school senior market, right, the album has been part of the culture forever, you know, and it's interesting. So has anyone ever said, well, I want to choose the folio box because I can't do this with the album, or has that ever arisen?
I think, you know, like we're looking behind you, like they can show off their child in their home. On the shelf, and I think switching out the cover image, in the lid, is really a nice feature. Whether or not people actually do it, I don't know, but people seem to think that it's really cool. It's like a framed piece that it's like the best of both worlds, I think, and they can show it off. Whereas an album, unless you're putting it, like, most people don't get the acrylic cover where it's like most people do like the full wrap, so it's either leather or linen, so it's not showing off their portrait on the front cover, and they put it on a shelf. I think that's probably why the portfolio boxes they're done. It's a done piece, and it's like proudly putting it on your shelf.
Right, very good. And Christine, have you started using Quantum yet?
I have.
Oh, tell us about that.
I have one client that I've given Quantum to, and it was actually a family, one of my old families that I can't say no to, because she's very profitable, even though I don't shoot families anymore. But she comes back with her family and spends, so I will photograph them. And she thought it was the coolest piece of tech she's ever seen. She's very excited to have it on her phone, but I have not done it with any seniors yet. So
I'm dying to hear the feedback from the high school seniors to see. Yeah.
I'll be making that switch for class of 2023, doing away with the USBs and going with the Quantum for those boxes. So everybody who's seen it says it's like magic. It's the coolest thing ever. So
very good. Love it. Christine, I can't believe I could talk to you all night. I can't believe the hour has just flown by. But I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. If you've any questions, you know, about tonight, just send us a message, send me a messenger or whatever. Christine is way too busy. It's automated. You go into you'll go into that CRM system to disappear forever because you're not an ideal client. So at any time, just feel free to reach out. If you want to meet Christine more often and other people like her, don't forget BSA. So Christine is a member of Business Success Academy, as well as being a great client at 3XN. So Christine, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. Stay safe, stay healthy, everybody, and we'll see you all again soon.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Christine, and I'll see you later, maybe in BSA.
I'll be there.
All right, see you then. Bye-bye, everybody.